I bet you've got loads of qualifications, just like I did by the time I was 34. In fact, I had so many qualifications. I had more qualifications than floor space, but I still had to get them all out and ask myself from time to time, am I qualified enough? Do I trust myself? Do I know what I'm talking about? And here's the thing. There's a really big trust issue for those of us who are actually working with others, wanting also to improve our lives in the areas that we are working with others. So many of us who have developed trust issues because you know what? In early life, those that we did trust let us down, end up in a position where we can't actually sort our own issues out. We want to, and what we end up doing is every personal issue we have, we then go and take a professional qualification out. I did it. I had so many diplomas in yoga, Reiki, all sorts of self-development stuff and a degree, but I still didn't feel like I was qualified enough, ever, because I didn't have a trust in my internal dialogue. And why would I trust it when actually my internal dialogue was my conditioning, which actually was never going to get me where I wanted to go? So what needed to change? Well, in order to be able to shift from a life where we're doing all this wonderful work for others, but we're not actually getting the results ourselves, we need to remember one thing. We have to also go on the personal journey that we are leading into as professionals, that we're leading others into as professionals. Most of the coaches, therapists, light workers I know who are doing amazing work out there and look like they've got their lives together, but actually feel like internally their life does not reflect their outer world, are in a position where they have taken the effort, the monetary expense to do something that will help others, thinking somehow as a byproduct they would help themselves. But what has ended up happening is they've done it for others and not actually taken the lessons for themselves. You tell me how you feel. Are you feeling happier being a teacher than a student? How do you feel about working with other people's vulnerability but don't like sharing your own? What is it like if you feel like you've been misunderstood or you've got it wrong? And how often are you actually deflecting to your mind rather than to your heart? And when you do ask your heart what you want, absolute terror takes over in your body because you haven't got a clue. By the time I was 34, I was super qualified, but I also had a daughter that hated me. I was in an unhappy relationship with a man who was wonderful, who loved me to bits, but I just did not feel the same way. However, I also didn't trust myself and was too scared to let the relationship go in case I didn't get something better come along. And I did love the guy, right? He was an amazing soul, just wasn't the right soul for me. It also looked to the rest of the world that I had a successful business. I was a yoga teacher running a yoga studio in Croydon, and I had other teachers working for me. At the same time, I had no pension, I had no savings, and I lived on an incredibly limited budget. I wasn't internally happy, even though I was doing great work in the world. And this is the thing that you really have to ask yourself. Are you happy? You might be doing great stuff out there, but are you feeling supported? Are you feeling nourished? Are you getting the very things that you want, that you give to others? How often have you run a group for other people thinking, oh, it's so lovely that all of these people are experiencing this. When is it going to be my turn? Well, that was definitely my truth. And I'll tell you what absolutely changed my life. This book. I'd already read Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, gone over my head, a little bit too scientific in the language, but when I came across this one, I knew I had to read it. And as soon as I had read it, I knew I wanted this. I was done. I was done with the past. I was done with trying to work it all out on my own, because you know what? I'd done it for 15 years, just doing the YouTube videos, just doing the digital programs that didn't cost too much, just doing the read another book and oh, I'll suddenly get it. It wasn't working. Nothing was changing long term. This book told me the what, it didn't tell me the how. The next step that I needed to do after reading this book was actually to make a decision to reach out. When I reached out and I found someone that Bruce had recommended and I booked a call with her, she then put forward to me, and this is the wonderful Susanna Kennedy, who is my teacher, realitycrafting.com. She put forward to me proposals that blew my mind. I actually so wanted what she had on offer, but I wasn't sure whether it would work for me. I wasn't sure whether this was too good to be true. And the price tag was way higher than I had ever spent on myself, ever. Now I justified it because I could put it through the business. I justified it that it was going to be good for me and it would be good for my clients and take me in a new direction. But I knew it was for me. This was for me. I was ready to take a step to trust someone else. And you know why I was willing to trust her? I'd read the book, and this lady had what I wanted. She was in a sacred union. She was living on a paradise island. She was doing the work that she felt she was here to do, and her vibrational match was there for what she was putting out in the world. There wasn't a front end and a back end, and I wanted that experience. So I went on that journey and I did it. And as a result of that, I opened myself up to recognizing how important it is that my foundations are secure. Because I'd done all of the self-help work, done lots and lots of courses on how to shift my mindset, how to create manifesting opportunities in my life and shift my game. But nothing really stuck because I hadn't cleared the subconscious programming in a big way. I dabbed at it with EFT and all the different things that you can actually do, including NLP, to shift your mindset. But I hadn't really cleared the backlog. And also, I was scared of clearing the backlog because if I actually cleared my subconscious programming, who was I going to be after that? There was an identity crisis I needed to face, and I definitely needed someone to hold my hand and take me through what was going to be the valley of doubt so I could end up on the other side. And this is another reason why we find it so hard to trust. We want to know that those that we trust are going to lead us where we want to go and not somewhere worse than where we are now. And this is the big piece, okay? Most of us are not very comfortable with revealing to others where we feel we are failing in our lives. Most of us hold some shame around the fact that we seem to be doing so well, but we don't feel like we're doing so well because X, Y, and Z is going on in our lives, and that doesn't feel good. For every therapist, light worker, coach, teacher of wonderful new ways to really flourish in this world, they have to have done the deep inner work for themselves too. And that's exactly the journey that I went on, that I then trained in, that I take others on. But guess what the difference is between the 15 years before, when I was super well qualified and I was doing great work for others, but not that great work for myself, and the person I am now today? I'm in my home office as I make this, that has been built by my lovely husband. The house that we have is mortgage free. Yes, I am now married to my dream man, the man I absolutely adore and want to spend the rest of my life with. And yes, I have completely shifted from a business that was making no money and draining me to a business where I feel like I'm totally lining up with my ultimate dream and what I'm going to be doing until I take my last breath on this earth plane. Now, this has all happened as a result of me doing one thing: trusting someone else to lead me where I wanted to go because they already had what I wanted, and me betting on myself. So I should have said two things. Because I invested in myself, I didn't have the funds that were required. And once I'd done that once and realized that actually by committing and trusting and believing in myself, I could create the resources I needed because life supported me and wanted me to be happy and continues to want me to be happy. I was able to pay off whatever it was that I paid for my own self-growth, not self-development, but self-growth and rewiring of circuitry, so that my subconscious, conscious, and superconscious or higher self are all lined up. Now, once I'd done that once, I realized the value of it. So I learned to stretch myself further out of the conditioning that I had that said, you don't stretch yourself beyond what you know you can afford, beyond what you know that you can actually sign up for. You've got to take a risk, my friends. Okay, all of us have conditioning that is limited, that keeps us back. And when you ask for something new, it will show up. It will show up in the form of a teacher with a price tag, probably very different to what you're used to paying. But here's the thing, when you decide to expand yourself into it, wonderful things actually happen. What happens is you realize that actually you can trust another being, and in trusting another being, you can trust yourself. And as you learn to interpret your inner dialogue, you start to trust yourself even more to venture into the unknown. And then as you master moving into the unknown, stabilizing in new frequencies, you can then help bring everyone else along as well. So this journey is the journey that I'm inviting you on. If you find that you are personally not really getting the results you want in your life, but you are very good at being able to get results for others. It's very frustrating, isn't it, when you give the best advice to everyone else, but your own advice to yourself, draw a blank. It's also very frustrating when it seems as though you should be absolutely brilliant at this one thing, but you seem like you're failing at it in your personal life, but you're so good at teaching it. We absolutely have to have a sense of humour and deep compassion for ourselves as we take this journey from being a master to being a student, to being an apprentice, to being someone who is willing to learn what we don't know already because we didn't receive the codes. It makes us vulnerable. It also makes us coachable. It also allows us to be transparent and in integrity. And when we are willing to be transparent and in integrity, we learn accountability. And as a result of that, we realise there's nothing we need to hide anymore. Our vibration shifts. We've cleared the past, we're aligned, and now we can flow with the divine and teach that to others. So that's the invitation. That's what I'm inviting you to. I love you.